When her fiancé publicly destroys her at dinner and her parents threaten to disown her unless she finds a husband in 5 days, Debbie makes a desperate choice, proposing marriage to a homeless stranger in an alley. But the man who says yes isn't homeless at all. He's Seoul's most powerful billionaire CEO, and he's been watching her all along. Now her humiliating nightmare is about to become the most dangerous love story of her life, and the ex-fiancé who destroyed her is about to learn that some women don't just survive betrayal, they rise above it in ways that make revenge look like mercy. If you're ready for a story about power, passion, and the kind of payback that changes everything, hit that subscribe button right now. You won't want to miss what happens next. The restaurant glittered like a jewel box, all crystal chandeliers and polished marble floors that reflected Seoul's elite in their designer clothes and practiced smiles. Debbie sat across from Min-joon, her fingers trembling slightly as she adjusted the napkin in her lap. Around them, conversations hummed in that particular frequency of wealth, low voices discussing deals and dividends, punctuated by polite laughter that never quite reached anyone's eyes. Min-joon hadn't looked at her in 20 minutes. His phone commanded more attention than she did, its screen casting blue shadows across his angular face. Debbie told herself it was work stress, that the wedding planning had everyone on edge, that the man she'd agreed to marry 3 months ago was still in there somewhere beneath the cold exterior. She was wrong about all of it. Min-joon, she ventured softly, hating how small her voice sounded. Should we talk about the final guest list? Your mother called again about Debbie. He set his phone down with deliberate precision, the kind of movement that made her spine straighten instinctively. We need to talk. Relief flooded through her. Finally, they would clear the air, address whatever had been building between them like storm clouds. She leaned forward slightly, offering him the smile that used to make him smile back. Yes, I think I'm calling off the wedding. The words landed like physical blows. Around them, conversations continued their endless, but Debbie's world had narrowed to the cold stranger wearing her fiancé's face. What? Min-joon's expression didn't change. If anything, it hardened further, his jaw setting in that way she'd seen him use with incompetent subordinates. You heard me. The engagement is over. I don't understand. Her hands gripped the table edge. Min-joon, if something's wrong, we can. Everything's wrong. He stood abruptly, and suddenly people were looking. Turning in their seats with that predatory interest the wealthy reserve for others' misfortunes. Did you really think I wouldn't find out? Find out what? Panic crept into her voice. I don't know what you're talking about. Don't play innocent. His voice carried now, projecting across the restaurant with the confidence of someone who'd never feared judgment. I know exactly what you are, Debbie. A social climber who saw an opportunity and took it. Heat flooded her face. Eyes pressed against her from every direction, hundreds of them, witnessing her humiliation in real time. That's not true. You love my bank account, my family name, the lifestyle I could give you. He laughed, sharp and cruel. Did you think I couldn't see it? The way you calculated every interaction, every smile, every carefully planned conversation. Debbie stood on shaking legs, chair scraping against marble with a sound that made her flinch. How can you say that? After everything. After everything you manipulated, you mean? Min-joon's eyes swept the watching crowd, performing for them now. I'm not stupid enough to marry someone who only sees me as a meal ticket. Find another fool to bankroll your ambitions. He walked away then, his footsteps echoing in the sudden silence. Debbie remained frozen, feeling the weight of dozens of gazes dissecting her, judging her, finding her guilty of crimes she hadn't committed. Whispers started like rustling leaves. Did you hear what he said? I always thought she was too ambitious. Poor Min-joon, lucky he found out in time. Someone nearby murmured loud enough for her to hear, gold digger. Debbie's legs carried her toward the exit on autopilot, her vision blurring with tears she refused to let fall until she was outside. The night air hit her like a slap, cold and unforgiving. Behind her, the restaurant's warmth and light continued uninterrupted, as if her world hadn't just ended inside its walls. Her phone buzzed. Then again. And again. Text messages flooding in from friends, acquaintances, people she'd invited to a wedding that would never happen. The news had already spread. In Seoul's elite circles, scandal traveled faster than light. The taxi ride home passed in a blur of neon and darkness. Debbie stared at her reflection in the window, barely recognizing the hollow-eyed woman staring back. 3 months ago, she'd been so happy. So certain. Now she couldn't remember what certainty felt like. Her parents' house loomed before her, all traditional architecture and modern money merged into something that should have felt like sanctuary, but never quite did. The lights were on. They were waiting. Debbie's mother met her at the door, face tight with an emotion somewhere between fury and shame. Explain. Mom, I don't. Her father appeared behind her mother, suit still crisp despite the late hour. We've already heard everything. The entire family has heard. Do you have any idea what you've done to our reputation? I didn't do anything. The words burst out of her, sharp with desperation. Min-joon lied. Whatever he thinks happened, whatever he believes. It doesn't matter what actually happened. Her mother's voice could have frozen fire. What matters is what everyone thinks happened. And right now, all of Seoul believes you tried to trap Min-joon into marriage for his money. Debbie's father moved to the living room, every step measured and controlled. Sit down. She sat, feeling like a child called before the principal, except this was so much worse. Her parents stood over her, a united front of disappointment and calculated damage control. The wedding vendors have already started canceling, her mother said. The venue, the caterers, the florist. Everyone's demanding to know if they should proceed or refund deposits. Tell them to refund. The words tasted like ash. There's no wedding. No, there isn't. Her father's tone carried finality. And now we need to address the real problem. You're 28 years old, Debbie. Unmarried, publicly humiliated, with a reputation that's been dragged through every gossip column in the city. I didn't ask for any of this. You accepted an engagement from a man clearly out of your league. Her mother's words cut with surgical precision. Now you'll deal with the consequences. What consequences? Fear crept up Debbie's spine. What are you talking about? Her parents exchanged a look, one of those wordless conversations that came from 30 years of marriage and mutual calculation. Her father spoke first. You have 2 options. Option 1, find another suitable match. Someone willing to overlook the scandal, someone who can restore our family standing. And option 2? We disown you. Her mother delivered the words without inflection, as if discussing the weather. No financial support. No family connections. No inheritance. You'll be completely on your own. The room spun. You can't be serious. We're deadly serious. Her father checked his watch, as if her entire future was simply another appointment to schedule. You have until the end of the week to decide. Find a husband or find a new family. Debbie stood on numb legs, her body moving without conscious thought. I need air. You need a plan. Her mother's voice followed her to the door. And you need it fast. This family will not be dragged down by your mistakes. She walked without direction, letting her feet carry her away from the house that had never quite felt like home. Away from the restaurant where her dignity had died. Away from the future she'd imagined that had evaporated like smoke. An alley opened before her, narrow and dimly lit. Common sense said turn back. Exhaustion said she didn't care anymore. She stepped into shadow. Miss? You okay? The voice made her jump. A man emerged from the deeper darkness, and Debbie's first instinct was fear. He looked homeless, his clothes worn and layered, his hair slightly too long, face shadowed by several days of stubble. But his eyes were clear, focused, holding an intelligence that didn't match his appearance. I'm fine, she said automatically, the lie everyone told. My fiancé called off our wedding tonight, she heard herself say. In front of everyone. Called me a gold digger and a manipulator and walked away like I was nothing. Your ex-fiancé did you a favor. Better to see someone's true character before marriage than after. Jae-hyun said calmly. My parents disagree. They gave me an ultimatum, find a new husband by the end of the week or they'll disown me. Comment below if you think Debbie's plan is brilliant or completely insane, and make sure you're subscribed because the next part is going to blow your mind. I'm out of options. So I'm asking you. You want to marry a homeless man you met once in an alley? His tone remained neutral, giving nothing away. That's your plan. I know how it sounds. I know it's crazy. But I'm offering you something too: money, a place to live, stability. It would be a contract marriage, purely business. We'd keep it simple, maintain appearances for my family, and after a reasonable time, we'd divorce quietly. Jae-hyun studied her in silence, his gaze measuring, calculating. The moment stretched until Debbie thought she might scream from the tension. Then he spoke, his voice carrying an edge she hadn't heard before. Okay. She'd expected questions, negotiations, maybe outright refusal. Not immediate acceptance. Just like that. A slight smile touched his lips, but it didn't reach his eyes. When do you need this done? Tomorrow. The deadline is tomorrow night. Then we should probably get started. Jae-hyun extended his hand, and Debbie took it, feeling calluses against her palm, strengthen his grip. One question though, are you sure about this? Once we do this, there's no taking it back. Debbie thought of Min-joon's cruelty, her parents' cold calculations, the life she'd built crumbling around her. I'm sure. Then let's get married, Debbie. They moved through the following day in a surreal blur. The courthouse was utilitarian and cold, nothing like the wedding Debbie had planned with its flowers and music and hundreds of guests. Jae-hyun appeared clean-shaven and wearing clothes that looked suspiciously less worn than before, though still far from wealthy. He signed the papers with steady hands while Debbie's trembled. You can still change your mind, he said quietly as the registrar processed their documents. So can you. I don't change my mind once it's made up. Something in his tone suggested layers beneath the words, depths she hadn't begun to explore. Question is whether you're prepared for what comes next. What comes next is I introduce you to my parents and we maintain a convincing marriage until we can quietly separate. Debbie tried to sound confident. How hard can it be? Jae-hyun's smile held knowledge she couldn't interpret. I guess we'll find out. The registrar returned with their marriage certificate, official and irrevocable. Debbie stared at her name next to Jae-hyun's, at the reality of what she'd just done. She'd married a stranger. A homeless stranger who'd agreed to this insane arrangement without question or negotiation. Where do you live? She asked as they left the courthouse, the questions suddenly urgent. I mean, where will we live? My apartment isn't huge, but we can make it work until... Actually, Jae-hyun interrupted, pulling out a phone that looked far too expensive for someone supposedly homeless. I have a place. Let's go there. You have a place? I have several places. But we'll start with the one in Gangnam. Debbie's confusion grew as they took a taxi, then a private car that appeared as if summoned, then pulled up to a building she recognized from architecture magazines, one of Seoul's most exclusive residential towers. The kind where apartments started at hundreds of millions of won. Why are we here? Because we live here. Jae-hyun stepped out of the car, opening her door with unexpected grace. Come on, wife. Time for the first surprise of many. The elevator required a key card to access the penthouse level. Jae-hyun's worked. Debbie's mind spun, trying to reconcile the homeless man from the alley with the person using biometric security and riding to the top floor of Seoul's most prestigious address. The elevator doors opened directly into an apartment that defied description. Floor-to-ceiling windows revealed soul stretching in every direction, glass and steel, and lights creating a tapestry of wealth and power. The interior was all clean lines and expensive minimalism, art on the walls that looked museum quality, furniture that probably cost more than Debbie had earned in years. I don't understand, she whispered, turning to face Jae-hyun. Who are you? He shrugged off his jacket, revealing clothes that suddenly looked less worn and more deliberately casual, designer pieces masquerading as ordinary. When he spoke, his voice carried authority that had been carefully hidden before. Jae-hyun Kang, CEO of Savage Group. Net worth approximately 500 billion won, though it fluctuates with market conditions. He watched her process this information, dark eyes unreadable. Did you really think I was homeless? You were in an alley. You looked, words failed her. Why would you pretend? I wasn't pretending. I was observing. I like walking through different neighborhoods, seeing the city without the buffer of wealth and security. It gives perspective. Jae-hyun moved to the windows, soul spread before him like a kingdom. And I wanted to see what kind of person you were when you thought I had nothing to offer. Debbie's legs felt unsteady. This was a test? Call it due diligence. I knew who you were the moment I saw you, Debbie. I knew about Min-joon, your family, the scandal. I wanted to see if you'd treat a homeless man with kindness or contempt. He turned, and his expression held something that might have been approval. You passed. This is her mind reeled, trying to reorganize everything she'd thought she knew. You're a billionaire. You could have anyone. Why would you agree to marry me? Because you needed help. Because I was curious. Because I liked your honesty in that alley. Jae-hyun approached slowly, each step measured. And because I have my own reasons, which we'll discuss when you're ready to hear them. I'm ready now. Despite everything, despite the shock and confusion, Debbie found her voice. Tell me. Not yet. He stopped just close enough that she could see gold flecks in his dark eyes, could feel the heat radiating from his body. First, you need to understand something. This marriage, it's real now. Legal and binding. And I take my commitments very seriously. It's a contract. We agreed. We agreed to marriage. The specifics can evolve. His gaze held hers, intense and unwavering. Welcome home, Mrs. Kong. I promise things are about to get very interesting. Debbie's phone buzzed, her mother calling for the daily check-in, demanding an update on the husband's situation. She looked at it, then at Jae-hyun, then at the impossible luxury surrounding her. 24 hours ago, she'd been desperate and alone. Now she was married to one of Seoul's most powerful men, standing in a penthouse that could house 100 people, trying to understand how her life had transformed so completely. I should answer that, she said quietly. Probably. Jae-hyun smiled, and this time it reached his eyes, transforming his features into something dangerous and beautiful. Tell them you found a husband. Just don't mention the details yet. I want to see their faces when they learn exactly who you married. Debbie answered the call, her voice steady despite the chaos in her mind. Mom? I have news. I got married today. The scream on the other end was predictable. But as Debbie looked at Jae-hyun, at this stranger who was now her husband, this man who'd hidden his identity and tested her character and swept her into a life beyond anything she'd imagined, she realized her mother's reaction was the least of her concerns. She'd traded one impossible situation for another. The question was whether she'd made the biggest mistake of her life or the most brilliant move she'd ever attempted. Either way, there was no going back now. Her mother's voice pierced through the phone like shattered glass. You did what? Debbie, who did you marry? What's his name? What does he do? His name is Jae-hyun Kong. Debbie watched her new husband pour 2 glasses of wine, his movements fluid and controlled. We'll come by tomorrow to introduce him properly. Kong? I don't know any prominent Kong families. Debbie, answer me right now, who is this man? You'll meet him tomorrow, Mom. I have to go. She ended the call before her mother could launch into another interrogation, silencing the immediate callback. The phone buzzed with texts, but Debbie set it face down on the marble counter. Jae-hyun handed her a glass of wine that probably cost more than her monthly rent. That sounded fun. She's going to lose her mind. Debbie took a long drink, the wine smooth and complex. Everything in this apartment was like that, refined, expensive, impossibly perfect. They'll research you before we even arrive. Good. Let them. He leaned against the counter, close enough that Debbie caught his scent, something clean and masculine with an underlying edge of danger. I want them to know exactly what they almost threw away when they gave you that ultimatum. This isn't about revenge. Isn't it? His gaze pinned her in place. Your ex-fiancé humiliated you publicly. Your parents threatened to disown you unless you found an acceptable husband within days. Now you're married to someone who makes Min-joon look poor by comparison. If that's not revenge, it's at least poetic justice. Debbie couldn't argue with that. The thought of Min-joon's face when he learned who she'd married sent a dark thrill through her, followed immediately by guilt for feeling it. I didn't marry you for revenge. No, you married me out of desperation. Jae-hyun's bluntness should have stung, but his tone held no judgment. Which is honest, at least. Most marriages start with prettier lies. What about you? She studied him, this stranger who is now her husband, trying to read the thoughts behind those carefully controlled features. You said you had your own reasons. Are you going to tell me what they are? Eventually. He set down his glass, moving closer. Debbie's breath caught as he reached out, but he only brushed a strand of hair from her face, his touch light and deliberate. For now, let's focus on making this convincing. Your family needs to believe we're legitimately married, which means we need to act like it. Act like what exactly? Like a couple who chose each other. Who are attracted to each other. Who can't quite keep their hands to themselves. His fingers traced her jaw, featherlight. Can you do that, Debbie? Can you pretend? Heat flooded through her, unexpected and unwelcome. She'd married this man out of necessity, signed papers without thinking about the reality of being his wife. Now he stood inches away, touching her with casual intimacy, and her body responded in ways her mind hadn't anticipated. I can pretend, she said, proud of how steady her voice remained. Good. Jae-hyun smiled, slow and predatory. Because starting tomorrow, everyone will be watching us. Your family, my business associates, Min-joon when he inevitably finds out. We need to be perfect together. He stepped back then, the sudden distance like cold air after heat. Debbie's skin still tingled where he'd touched her, her pulse racing from proximity and wine and the sheer impossibility of everything that had happened. There are 3 bedrooms, Jae-hyun said, his tone shifting to practical. Master suite, guest room, and an office that converts to a bedroom. Take your pick. I'll take the guest room. The answer came quickly, self-preservation instinct kicking in. Until we figure out how this works. Suit yourself. He moved toward the hallway, pausing at the threshold. Fair warning though, when people visit, we share the master. Appearances matter and separate rooms send the wrong message. Debbie nodded, her mind already spinning with the complications ahead. She'd thought marrying Jae-hyun would solve her problems. Instead, she'd traded one set of challenges for another, more complex and far more dangerous to her peace of mind. That night, she lay in a guest bed more comfortable than any she'd slept in, staring at the ceiling and wondering what she'd done. Through the walls, she heard nothing. Jae-hyun moved silently, a ghost in his own home. Eventually exhaustion won over anxiety, dragging her into fitful sleep. Morning arrived with Seoul's light filtering through floor-to-ceiling windows. Debbie woke disoriented, forgetting briefly where she was. Then memory crashed back, the marriage, the revelation, the penthouse that was now supposedly her home. She found Jae-hyun in the kitchen, wearing workout clothes and reading something on a tablet. He looked up as she entered, his gaze assessing. Coffee's ready. We're meeting your parents at 11, which gives you 2 hours to prepare. He slid the tablet toward her. You should read this first. The screen showed a financial profile of Savage Group, holdings in technology, real estate, pharmaceuticals, dozens of subsidiaries forming a corporate empire that rivaled the oldest chaebols in Korea. Jae-hyun's photo showed him in a suit, looking every inch the powerful CEO. The estimated net worth made her dizzy. Why are you showing me this? Because your parents will have read it by now. They'll know exactly who you married, what I'm worth, what connections I have. Jae-hyun's expression remained neutral. They'll also know that I'm significantly wealthier than Min-joon ever dreamed of being. You keep mentioning him. Debbie set down the tablet. Why? Because he's relevant. He humiliated you publicly, which means he'll have an opinion about your marriage. And I'm curious to see his reaction. Something cold flickered in Jae-hyun's eyes. Call it professional interest. Before Debbie could press further, his phone rang. He answered in rapid Korean, his tone shifting to pure authority. She caught enough to understand it was business, something about a merger, shares, board approval. He spoke with absolute confidence, every word a command disguised as a request. This was the real Jae-hyun. Not the homeless observer or the casual stranger in an alley, but the billionaire CEO who controlled empires with phone calls and decisions. Debbie's stomach tightened as she realized how little she knew about the man she'd married. He ended the call and checked his watch. You should get ready. Wear something that says you're not trying too hard, but also not apologizing for anything. I don't need fashion advice. You need armor. Jae-hyun's gaze held hers. Because your parents are going to come at you hard. They'll demand explanations, question my intentions, try to take control of the narrative. You need to walk in there knowing you have all the power now, not them. He was right, and Debbie hated how right he was. She retreated to the guest room and carefully selected clothes, a designer dress that had been an extravagant purchase months ago, paired with heels that added 3 inches to her height. Simple jewelry, minimal makeup, hairstyled but not overdone. When she emerged, Jae-hyun had changed into a suit that probably cost more than most people's cars. He looked devastating, all sharp lines and controlled power, the kind of man who walked into rooms and automatically commanded attention. Better, he said, offering his arm. Ready? No. Perfect. The best performances come from fear managed well. His smile held dark amusement. Let's go meet your parents, wife. The drive to her parents' house passed in tense silence. Jae-hyun's driver navigated Seoul's streets with practiced efficiency while Debbie's anxiety built with each passing block. Her phone had exploded with messages overnight, her mother demanding details, her father requiring answers, distant relatives suddenly very interested in her life. The house looked exactly as it always did, imposing and traditional, wealth displayed through architecture and carefully manicured gardens. Jae-hyun studied it with unreadable eyes. Nice place. Conservative but expensive. Your parents care about appearances. You have no idea, Debbie muttered. Actually, I have a very good idea. He helped her from the car, his hand warm and steady on her elbow. I've dealt with families like yours my entire career. They respect power and money. Fortunately, I have both. Her mother answered the door before they could knock, her expression somewhere between fury and calculation. She dressed formally, her best hanbok, preparing for this meeting like a battle. Behind her, Debbie's father stood in his study doorway, watching. Mom, Dad, this is my husband, Jae-hyun Kang. Debbie's voice remained steady. Jae-hyun, these are my parents. Mr. and Mrs. Park. Jae-hyun bowed with perfect courtesy, his demeanor shifting to something respectful but not submissive. Thank you for seeing us. Her mother's eyes narrowed. You're Jae-hyun Kang? The Savage Group CEO? Yes, ma'am. And you married our daughter yesterday. Without informing us. Without proper ceremony or family discussion. I stripped from every word. Care to explain why? Because she asked me to, and I saw no reason to refuse. Jae-hyun's tone remained pleasant, but still underlay the politeness. Debbie needed help. I was in a position to provide it. The rest seemed simple. Simple? Her father stepped forward, decades of business dealing evident in his assessing gaze. Marriage is never simple, Mr. Kang. Especially when it involves our daughter and someone of your prominence. I agree completely. Which is why I'm here now, introducing myself properly and making clear my intentions. Jae-hyun's hand found Debbie's, his fingers interlacing with hers. The touch felt possessive and protective simultaneously. I care about your daughter. I intend to take care of her. And I expect her family to support our marriage rather than question it. The living room fell silent. Debbie watched her parents' faces cycle through emotions, shock, anger, calculation, and finally, reluctant acceptance. They'd researched Jae-hyun. They knew exactly what he was worth, what connections he had, what marrying him meant for their family's status. Her mother recovered first, her expression smoothing into practiced hospitality. Perhaps we should sit down. Talk properly. There's much to discuss. They moved to the formal sitting room, that space reserved for important guests and serious conversations. Tea appeared, served by staff who kept their eyes down and expressions neutral. Debbie sipped hers carefully, feeling like she was playing a role in someone else's drama. How did you meet? Her father asked, his tone carefully neutral. Jae-hyun's thumb stroked the back of Debbie's hand, casual and intimate. We met by chance. I found her during a difficult moment, and we connected immediately. Sometimes you just know. It wasn't entirely a lie, which made it perfect. Her parents exchanged glances, silently communicating in that way long-married couples did. And the timing her mother pressed. Days after her engagement ended, she marries you. It seems convenient. It was convenient, Jae-hyun agreed, his bluntness surprising everyone. Debbie was dealing with fallout from her ex-fiancé's cruelty and your ultimatum. I offered a solution that benefited us both. Love can develop from practical beginnings. So you admit this is a marriage of convenience? Her father leaned forward slightly. I admit we married quickly. Whether it's convenient or something more, that's our business, not yours. Jae-hyun's tone remained polite, but his eyes held warning. What matters is that Debbie is now my wife. She has my protection, my resources, and my complete support. I suggest you remember that before making any more ultimatums. The threat hung in the air, wrapped in courtesy. Debbie's parents heard it clearly. Their daughter had married someone more powerful than they were, someone who could help or hurt their family's standing, depending on how they proceeded. Her mother's smile tightened. Of course. We only want what's best for Debbie. Then we understand each other. Jae-hyun stood, bringing Debbie up with him. We should go. I have meetings this afternoon, and I'm sure you need time to process everything. They made their exit with minimal additional conversation, pleasantries exchanged with more calculation than warmth. Debbie didn't breathe properly until they were back in the car, Seoul sliding past the windows. That was terrifying, she said quietly. That was necessary. Jae-hyun loosened his tie slightly. They needed to understand the new dynamic. You're not their desperate daughter anymore. You're my wife, which gives you power they can't touch. Is that why you married me? To give me power? Partially. He looked at her, something unreadable in his expression. And partially for reasons I'm still not ready to explain. The mystery was starting to frustrate her, but before Debbie could press, Jae-hyun's phone rang again. More business, more decisions, his attention shifting seamlessly to corporate matters. She watched him work, fascinated despite herself by the transformation from attentive husband to ruthless CEO. They returned to the penthouse for lunch. Jae-hyun disappeared into his office for video conferences while Debbie explored her new home, still struggling to accept this was real. Designer clothes hung in the master closet alongside space, clearly meant for her things. The bathroom rivaled a spa. Every detail spoke of wealth so vast it became almost abstract. Her phone buzzed with a call from an unknown number. Debbie almost ignored it, but something made her answer. Hello? Debbie? Min-joon's voice hit her like a physical blow. We need to talk. She should have hung up immediately. Instead, some combination of curiosity and residual anger kept her on the line. I have nothing to say to you. Just listen. I heard you got married. To Jae-hyun Kang. He laughed, bitter and sharp. How did you pull that off? What did you promise him? Because there's no way someone like Kang would marry someone like you unless you... Unless I what, Min-joon? Ice filled her voice. Unless I manipulated him? Used him? Isn't that what you accuse me of doing to you? This is different. He's a billionaire. He's one of the most powerful men in Korea. You can't seriously expect me to believe this is real. I don't expect you to believe anything. I don't care what you think anymore. The words felt liberating. You humiliated me, destroyed my reputation, and walked away like I was garbage. Now I'm married to someone who actually values me. That's all you need to know. Debbie, wait. She ended the call, her hands shaking. Jae-hyun appeared in the doorway, his expression dangerous. Who is that? Min-joon. He called too. I don't know what he wanted, actually. To question my marriage. To make himself feel better about what he did. Debbie set down her phone. How did you know? Your voice changed. You sounded angry. Jae-hyun crossed to her, his presence overwhelming. What did he say? That there's no way you'd marry me unless I manipulated you. Essentially the same garbage he said at the restaurant. She met his eyes. He can't accept that someone like you would want someone like me. Someone like you. Jae-hyun's voice dropped lower. Smart, beautiful, resilient enough to survive your world collapsing and find a way forward. He's an idiot for not seeing your value. You barely know me. I know enough. His hand cupped her face, thumb brushing her cheek. I know you helped someone you thought was homeless without hesitation. I know you face your problems head-on instead of running. I know you're stronger than you think you are. Heat bloomed where he touched her, spreading through Debbie's body. This close, she could see the complex colors in his eyes, could feel the controlled power in his frame. He'd been playing a role with her parents, but this felt different. Real. Why are you really doing this? She whispered. The truth, Jae-hyun. Because I wanted to. His gaze held hers. Because when I saw you in that alley, broken and desperate, but still kind, I decided you were worth protecting. And because I have my own scores to settle with people like Min-joon, arrogant, entitled men who think they own the world. This is about revenge then. This is about justice. There's a difference. His thumb traced her lower lip, and Debbie's breath caught. Your ex-fiancé is going to learn that he made a mistake. So will anyone else who underestimated you. And we're going to enjoy watching them realize it. Before Debbie could respond, he kissed her. Not tentatively or carefully, but with confident possession, his mouth claiming hers like he had every right to it. She should have pulled away, reminded him this was a contract, that physical intimacy wasn't part of their deal. Instead, she kissed him back, her hands fisting in his shirt, her body pressing against his. Heat and need and something dangerous sparked between them, the careful distance they'd maintained evaporating in an instant. Jae-hyun's hands slid to her waist, pulling her closer, the kiss deepening until Debbie forgot why this was a bad idea. His control never wavered, even as his touch set her skin on fire. He kissed like he did everything else, with absolute confidence and devastating precision. When he finally pulled back, they were both breathing hard. Jae-hyun's eyes had darkened, his usual composure cracked just enough to show the hunger beneath. We should establish some ground rules, he said, voice rough. Yes. Debbie's pulse hammered. We should. After. He kissed her again, briefer but no less intense. After I stop wanting to do that every time I look at you. Jae-hyun. I know. Contract marriage. Professional boundaries. All very sensible. His smile turned predatory. But you kissed me back, Debbie. With enthusiasm. So maybe our contract needs revising. Before she could form a coherent response, his phone rang. He cursed quietly, checking the screen and sighing. I have to take this. Business emergency. But we're not done with this conversation. He disappeared into his office, leaving Debbie standing in the living room, her lips still tingling, her mind spinning. She'd married Jae-hyun out of desperation, expecting a simple arrangement. Instead, she'd bound herself to a man who was far more complex and dangerous than she'd imagined, to her plans, her peace of mind, and her carefully guarded heart. If you're losing your mind over that kiss, smash that like button and drop a comment telling me whether Debbie should run away or dive deeper into this dangerous game. Trust me, it only gets more intense from here. That evening, Jae-hyun took her to dinner at one of Seoul's most exclusive restaurants, the kind where reservations required months of waiting unless you were powerful enough to simply walk in. They were seated immediately, whispers following them through the dining room. Everyone's staring, Debbie murmured, hyper-aware of the attention. Let them stare. By tomorrow morning, every gossip column in Seoul will be talking about us. Jae-hyun ordered wine without consulting the menu, his Korean fluid and authoritative. We want them talking. Why? Because reputation is currency in this world. Right now, you're the woman who married a billionaire days after being publicly humiliated. That's a story people love, the underdog who rises above her circumstances. His gaze held hers across the table. We're going to make sure everyone knows you landed on your feet. The meal passed in a blur of exquisite food and careful conversation, both of them aware of watching eyes. Jae-hyun played his role perfectly, attentive but not excessive, his touches casual but possessive, creating an image of a couple genuinely infatuated with each other. Debbie found herself wondering how much was performance and how much reflected the heat that had sparked between them that afternoon. His kiss had felt real. His hunger had felt genuine. But Jae-hyun was a master of control, and she had no idea what was calculated versus honest. They were finishing dessert when Min-joon appeared. He looked terrible, rumpled clothes, dark circles under his eyes, the polish he usually wore stripped away by something Debbie couldn't identify. He approached their table with the confidence of someone who'd had too much to drink. Debbie. Kong. He nodded to Jae-hyun, his tone attempting casual dismissiveness. Interesting seeing you here. Min-joon. Jae-hyun's voice carried polite disinterest. Did you need something? Just wanted to congratulate you both. Very sudden marriage. People are talking. Min-joon's gaze fixed on Debbie. It must be nice, trading up so quickly. From me to one of Korea's richest men. Impressive pivot. Anger flared hot and immediate, but before Debbie could respond, Jae-hyun's hand covered hers on the table. His touch was gentle, but his voice cut like ice. Careful, Park. You're speaking about my wife. And I take offense to anyone suggesting she married me for money, especially someone who publicly accused her of that same thing when she was engaged to you. He smiled, cold and dangerous. Unless you'd like to explain to everyone here exactly why you called off your engagement. I'm sure the truth would be fascinating. Min-joon paled. I don't know what you mean. Don't you? Jae-hyun leaned back, every inch the powerful CEO. Walk away, Park. Before you say something you'll regret more than you already regret letting Debbie go. The threat hung between them, unsubtle and absolute. Min-joon's jaw worked, anger and something else, fear, flashing across his features. Finally, he turned and left without another word. Debbie released a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. What did you mean about the truth? About why he ended our engagement? Something to discuss later. In private. Jae-hyun signaled for the check. Let's go home. The word home shouldn't have affected her, but it did. In days, she'd gone from having no home to living in a penthouse with a husband who kissed her like he meant it and defended her honor like something from a drama. None of it felt real. Back at the penthouse, Debbie kicked off her heels and headed for the guest room, needing space to process everything. Jae-hyun caught her wrist, stopping her. We should talk. About what? About this afternoon. About the kiss. About what happens next. His thumb stroked the inside of her wrist, sending shivers up her arm. This marriage was supposed to be simple, but it's becoming complicated. Because you kissed me. Because we kissed each other. His eyes held hers. I'm attracted to you, Debbie. That wasn't part of the plan, but it's the reality. Question is what we do about it. Nothing. The word came out less firmly than intended. We do nothing. This is a contract marriage. We maintain appearances publicly and keep things professional privately. That's what we agreed to. We agreed to marriage. We didn't discuss the details. Jae-hyun moved closer, crowding her space in a way that should have felt threatening, but instead felt intoxicating. And I think we need to acknowledge that keeping things professional might be harder than either of us anticipated. Then we try harder. Debbie stepped back, needing distance. I didn't marry you for this. For whatever this is. I married you because I was desperate and you offered help. That's all. Is it? His question held challenge. Because earlier today, you kissed me like you were feeling something more than gratitude for help. Heat flooded her face. That was a mistake. Was it? Jae-hyun studied her, his expression unreadable. Or was it the first honest thing that's happened between us? Debbie couldn't answer that. Didn't want to examine too closely what she'd felt when his mouth had been on hers, when his hands had pulled her close, when every rational thought had evaporated under the heat of mutual desire. I need time, she finally said. This is all too much, too fast. I went from being engaged to humiliated to married to you in less than a week. I don't know what I'm feeling or thinking anymore. Fair enough. Jae-hyun stepped back, giving her space. Take your time. Figure out what you want. But Debbie? He waited until she met his eyes. Don't lie to yourself about what's happening here. We might have started this as a transaction, but it stopped being simple the moment we signed those papers. He left her standing in the hallway, his words echoing long after he'd disappeared into the master bedroom. Debbie retreated to the guest room, but sleep evaded her. She lay in the darkness, feeling the penthouse around her, hearing the subtle sounds of Jae-hyun moving through his space. Everything had changed. Nothing was simple. And somewhere beneath the confusion and fear, something else stirred, possibility maybe, or danger. With Jae-hyun, she was rapidly learning they might be the same thing. The next morning arrived with Seoul's skyline bathed in golden light, the city spreading below like a promise of possibilities. Debbie woke early, her mind still churning through everything that had happened. 3 days married to a man she barely knew, living in luxury she'd never imagined, caught between the safety of a contract and the dangerous pull of genuine attraction. She found Jae-hyun in the kitchen again, this time on a video call with what looked like a full boardroom of executives. He gestured for her to help herself to coffee, not breaking stride in his rapid-fire Korean about quarterly projections and market expansion. Watching him work was fascinating, every word calculated, every decision delivered with absolute authority. When he finally ended the call, he turned to her with an expression she couldn't quite read. "Get dressed. Something formal. We're going to an event tonight." "What kind of event?" "Corporate gala. Savage Group is one of the main sponsors, which means I'm expected to attend with my wife." His emphasis on the last word carried layers of meaning. "It's time to introduce you properly to my world." Debbie's stomach tightened. "Will Min-joon be there?" "Almost certainly. His company does business with several firms that will be represented." Jae-hyun's smile turned predatory. "Which is exactly why we're going. Let him see what he lost. Let everyone see who you really are now." The day passed in preparation. A stylist arrived at the penthouse with racks of designer gowns, transforming the living room into a temporary boutique. Debbie tried on dress after dress while Jae-hyun worked in his office, occasionally emerging to offer opinions that were surprisingly astute. "That one," he said when she appeared in a midnight blue gown that clung to her curves before flowing into an elegant train. "You look powerful. Untouchable. Perfect." The hairstylist and makeup artist arrived next, working with professional efficiency until Debbie barely recognized her reflection. She looked like someone who belonged in Jae-hyun's world, polished, sophisticated, every inch the billionaire's wife. When she emerged fully dressed, Jae-hyun went still. He'd changed into a black tuxedo that made him look devastating, but his attention was entirely on her. Something heated flickered in his dark eyes. "You're going to stop traffic," he said quietly. "That's the point, isn't it? Make an impression. Show everyone I'm not the desperate woman Min-joon humiliated." Debbie smoothed the gown's fabric, nervous despite herself. "You were never desperate. You were surviving." Jae-hyun crossed to her, producing a velvet box. "These will complete the look." Inside lay a diamond necklace that probably cost more than most houses, matching earrings that caught the light and threw it back in brilliant flashes. Debbie's breath caught. "I can't wear these." "There. Yours now. Everything I have is yours, Debbie. That's what marriage means." He fastened the necklace around her throat, his fingers brushing her skin and sending shivers down her spine. "Besides, they're not just jewelry. They're armor. Confidence you can wear." The gala was held at one of Seoul's most prestigious hotels, the ballroom transformed into something from a fantasy with flowers and lights and enough wealth concentrated in one space to fund a small country. Jae-hyun's hand rested on the small of Debbie's back as they entered, possessive and protective. Eyes turned immediately. Whispers rippled through the crowd like wind through grass. Debbie felt the weight of attention, judgment, curiosity, everyone wanting to see the woman who'd married Jae-hyun Kang so suddenly, so mysteriously. "Breathe," Jae-hyun murmured against her ear. "You belong here. Remember that." They moved through the crowd, Jae-hyun introducing her to business associates and corporate rivals with equal ease. Debbie smiled and made conversation, falling into the social patterns she'd learned growing up in Seoul's upper class. But now she stood beside someone more powerful than her parents, more influential than Min-joon. The dynamic had completely shifted. "Jae-hyun." A woman approached, stunning in red silk, her smile sharp. "I heard rumors you'd gotten married. Didn't believe them until now." "Soo-jin." Jae-hyun's tone remained cordial but cool. "This is my wife, Debbie." "Debbie, Soo-jin Park is CEO of Park Pharmaceuticals." Something in the woman's gaze assessed Debbie and found her wanting. "Interesting choice. Very sudden, wasn't it? The wedding, I mean. When you know, you know." Jae-hyun's arm tightened around Debbie's waist. "No point in waiting when you've found the right person." "Of course." Soo-jin's smile never reached her eyes. "I'm sure you'll be very happy together. If you'll excuse me." She drifted away, and Debbie caught the calculating look she threw back at them. "She doesn't like me. She doesn't like anyone." Soo-jin wanted to merge our companies through marriage, specifically by marrying me. I declined. She's been difficult ever since. Jae-hyun's hand stroked her back absently. Ignore her. She's irrelevant. They continued circulating, and Debbie found herself relaxing into the role. Jae-hyun never left her side, his attention and touches making it clear she was important to him. Whether performance or reality, it felt good to be valued so obviously after Min-joon's public rejection. Then she saw him. Min-joon stood near the bar, talking to a group of men in expensive suits. He looked better than he had at the restaurant, back to his usual polished self, but something haunted his eyes when he spotted her. His gaze traveled from her face to the diamonds at her throat to Jae-hyun's possessive hand, and Debbie watched him make the calculation. Saw the moment he realized exactly how far she'd risen. He's staring, she murmured. Good. Let him stare. Jae-hyun's voice held dark satisfaction. Let him understand what he threw away. Min-joon approached inevitably, like a moth to flame. His companions followed, clearly curious about the drama. One of them Debbie recognized Tae-young Kim, Min-joon's best friend and business partner. Kong. Debbie. Min-joon's jaw was tight. Enjoying the gala? Very much. Jae-hyun's tone could have frozen fire. The company is excellent. Tae-young's eyes darted between them, reading tension. Min-joon mentioned you two got married recently. Congratulations. Thank you. Debbie found her voice, surprised by how steady it sounded. It was rather sudden, but sometimes the best things are. Sudden indeed. Min-joon's voice carried an edge. Mere days after our engagement ended. Almost like you had a backup plan. The accusation hung in the air. Around them, conversations quieted as people sensed conflict brewing. Jae-hyun's hand slid from Debbie's back to her hand, interlacing their fingers in clear display. Careful, Park. You're treading dangerous ground. His voice remained pleasant, but steel underlay every word. My wife doesn't need backup plans. She has me. Which is considerably more than she had when she was engaged to you. Is it? Min-joon's control was slipping, alcohol and jealousy loosening his tongue. Or is this just another calculated move? She's good at those. Very good at making people believe she cares when really she's just. Finish that sentence and I'll ruin you. Jae-hyun's tone didn't rise, but the threat landed like a physical blow. Professionally, personally, completely. I have that power, Park. And I'll use it if you continue insulting my wife. Min-joon paled. You can't threaten me. That wasn't a threat. It was a promise. Jae-hyun smiled, cold and dangerous. Now, I think it's time you explain something. To everyone here. Tell them why you really called off your engagement to Debbie. I already explained. She was using me. No. The truth, Park. Jae-hyun's eyes glittered. Tell them about the deal you made with your father. About the arranged marriage to the Japanese investor's daughter that would save your company from bankruptcy. About how you needed to end things with Debbie to make room for a more financially advantageous match. The ballroom went silent. Debbie's heart stopped, then started racing. She stared at Min-joon, watching color drain from his face, watching truth written in his expression. That's not, I didn't. Min-joon stumbled over words. It is, and you did. Jae-hyun's voice carried across the silent space. Your company has been hemorrhaging money for months. Your father arranged a marriage to Yuki Tanaka to access her family's investment capital. You couldn't maintain 2 engagements, so you chose the profitable one and discarded Debbie. But you couldn't admit that, could you? Couldn't let people think you were the desperate one. So you made her the villain instead. Debbie couldn't breathe. Everything clicked into place. Min-joon's distance in the weeks before he'd ended things, his sudden cruelty, the way he'd made her the problem. He'd needed an escape, and he'd used her reputation as the exit. You knew, she whispered, looking at Jae-hyun. You knew this whole time. I had it investigated after we met. Wanted to understand what really happened. His gaze never left Min-joon. Wanted to know if you deserved what he did to you. Turns out you didn't. You were just collateral damage in his financial crisis. Min-joon's hands clenched into fists. You had no right. I had every right. She's my wife now, which means her pain is my concern. Jae-hyun's calm was more terrifying than anger would have been. You humiliated her publicly to cover your own failures. That's unacceptable. Taeyong grabbed Min-joon's arm, clearly trying to prevent disaster. We should go. Yes, you should. Jae-hyun dismissed them with barely a glance. Before I decide to share more details about Park Industries' financial situation, I'm sure your investors would be fascinated. They left, Min-joon practically dragged away by his friend, his face mottled with rage and humiliation. Conversations gradually resumed around them, but Debbie felt everyone's eyes, heard the whispers shift from judgment of her to curiosity about what they'd just witnessed. Why didn't you tell me? She looked up at Jae-hyun, emotions churning. Why let me believe I'd done something wrong? Because you needed to stop believing that on your own. If I'd told you, you might have doubted me, thought I was just being kind. His thumb stroked her hand. But now you know the truth. Min-joon was the user, not you. He destroyed your reputation to save his own. And everyone here just learned that. Before she could respond, he pulled her onto the dance floor. The orchestra played something slow and romantic, couples swaying together under crystal chandeliers. Jae-hyun's hand settled on her waist, drawing her close enough that she felt his heartbeat, steady and strong. You didn't have to do that, Debbie said quietly. Expose him like that. Yes, I did. He needed to understand that hurting you has consequences. Jae-hyun's gaze held hers, intense and unwavering. And you needed to see that you have power now. Real power. The kind that comes from truth and from having someone who won't let you be diminished. Is that what you are? Someone who won't let me be diminished. Among other things. His hand on her back pressed her closer, eliminating space between them. I told you I had my own reasons for this marriage. Want to know what they are? Yes. Her heart hammered against her ribs. I wanted you. From the moment I saw you in that alley, broken but still kind, I wanted to know you. Wanted to protect you. Wanted to see what you'd become when you stopped being treated like you weren't enough. His voice dropped lower, intimate despite the crowd around them. This started as me helping you. It's become something different. What has it become? Debbie could barely breathe. Something real. Something that terrifies me as much as it fascinates me. His hand cupped her face, thumb brushing her cheek. I wasn't supposed to care this much this fast. But I do. And I think you do too, even if you're not ready to admit it. The song ended, but they stayed pressed together, the rest of the ballroom fading to background noise. Debbie's mind spun, trying to process everything, the revelation about Min-joon, Jae-hyun's confession, the way her body responded to his proximity. I don't know what I feel, she admitted. This is all so complicated. It doesn't have to be. He kissed her forehead, gentle and possessive. We're married. We're attracted to each other. Everything else is just details we figure out together. They left the gala shortly after, the car ride home charged with unspoken tension. Debbie's mind wouldn't stop replaying the evening, Min-joon's humiliation, the truth finally revealed, Jae-hyun's words on the dance floor. Something had shifted fundamentally. The contract marriage had become something messier, more real, more dangerous to her carefully guarded heart. At the penthouse, Jae-hyun poured them both wine, his movements controlled despite the energy crackling between them. You should know something else. What now? Debbie accepted the glass, needing something to occupy her hands. Min-joon is going to retaliate. His pride won't let tonight stand without response. He'll try to hurt us somehow, probably through business, possibly through more personal attacks. Jae-hyun's expression hardened. I wanted you aware so you're not blindsided. Let him try. Surprising even herself, Debbie felt anger kindle where fear should have been. I'm tired of being his victim. Tired of letting him control the narrative. If he wants a fight, he can have one. There's my fierce wife. Jae-hyun's smile held approval and something darker. Good. Because we're about to make him regret ever underestimating you. Before you find out exactly how Debbie and Jae-hyun bring Min-joon to his knees, hit that like button and tell me in the comments if you think their marriage can become something real. And if you're not subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? The best part is coming. The retaliation came faster than expected. 2 days later, articles appeared online, carefully planted stories suggesting Debbie had known about Jae-hyun's wealth all along, that she deliberately targeted him after Min-joon ended their engagement. The narrative painted her as calculating and opportunistic, a gold digger who'd upgraded from one wealthy man to an even wealthier one. "It's Min-joon," Debbie said, staring at her phone screen in Jae-hyun's office. "This has his fingerprints all over it." Obviously. Jae-hyun barely looked up from his computer. "And completely ineffective. Anyone with half a brain can see this is retaliation, not truth. But people will believe it anyway. They always do." Old fears resurfaced, the memory of being judged and found wanting still fresh. Let them believe what they want. Jae-hyun finally looked at her, his expression unreadable. "We know the truth. That's what matters." "Is it?" Frustration bled into her voice. "Because I'm tired of defending myself against lies. Tired of people thinking the worst of me." Jae-hyun stood, crossing to where she sat, his presence overwhelming as always. "Then stop defending. Start attacking instead." "What do you mean?" "I mean we stop playing defense and go on offense. We control the narrative instead of reacting to it." His eyes glittered with something dangerous. "I have something Min-joon wants. Something he needs desperately. And we're going to use it to destroy him." "What does he need?" "Investment capital." His arranged marriage to Yuki Tanaka fell through. Her family backed out once they learned about his financial instability. Now he's scrambling for funds, and Savage Group is one of the few companies with enough liquidity to save Park Industries. Jae-hyun's smile turned predatory. "He's going to come to me begging. And when he does, I'm going to make him pay for what he did to you." The plan was elegant in its cruelty. Jae-hyun let it be known through carefully placed sources that Savage Group might be interested in investing in struggling companies. Min-joon took the bait within days, requesting a meeting through official channels. "You don't have to be there," Jae-hyun said the morning of the meeting. "This can just be business." "No," Debbie's voice held steel she hadn't known she possessed. "I want to be there. I want to see his face when he realizes he has to beg us for help." The meeting took place in Savage Group's main conference room, all glass and steel with Seoul spreading below like a conquered kingdom. Min-joon arrived with Tae-young and 2 financial advisors, his confidence brittle beneath professional courtesy. His expression when he saw Debbie sitting beside Jae-hyun at the conference table was priceless, shock, anger, and something that might have been shame flickering across his features. "Mrs. Kong." He forced the title out. "I didn't realize you'd be attending. I attend all important meetings with my husband." Debbie's voice remained pleasant. "Please sit. You wanted to discuss investment opportunities." The presentation was professional but desperate. Park Industries needed capital immediately or face bankruptcy. They'd exhausted other options. Savage Group represented their last hope. Jae-hyun listened without expression, asking pointed questions that revealed just how dire Min-joon's situation was. When the presentation ended, silence filled the room. "Interesting proposal," Jae-hyun finally said. "But I have concerns. Primarily about leadership. Park Industries' current trajectory suggests management issues beyond simple capital shortfall." Min-joon's jaw tightened. "We've had some challenges, but you've had catastrophic failures masked by accounting tricks and desperate deals. The Tanaka marriage being a prime example." Jae-hyun's tone never rose, but his words cut deep. "You sacrificed your personal relationship with Debbie for a business arrangement that ultimately collapsed. That suggests poor judgment." I was trying to save my company. By destroying someone else's reputation. By publicly humiliating the woman you'd promised to marry. By making her the villain in your failure." Jae-hyun leaned forward slightly. "That's not leadership. That's cowardice." The room's temperature seemed to drop. Min-joon's advisor shifted uncomfortably, clearly wanting to be anywhere else. Tae-young looked ready to intervene but stayed silent. "If you're not interested in investing, just say so." Min-joon's voice shook slightly. "Don't waste our time with personal attacks." "Oh, I'm very interested in investing." Jae-hyun's smile held no warmth. "But my terms are non-negotiable. I want controlling interest in Park Industries. 51%. And I want you removed as CEO, replaced by someone competent. You can stay on the board if you'd like, but you're done making decisions." "You can't be serious." Min-joon stood abruptly. "That's not investment, that's a hostile takeover. It's business. Take it or watch your family's company die." Jae-hyun's voice remained conversational. "Your choice." Debbie watched emotions war across Min-joon's face: pride, rage, desperation. He'd come here expecting to negotiate from weakness, but hoping for mercy. Instead, he'd found justice delivered with surgical precision. I need time to consider. You have until end of business today. After that, my offer expires and you're on your own. Jae-hyun stood, effectively ending the meeting. I suggest you choose wisely. Your family's legacy depends on it. They filed out, Min-joon moving like a man in shock. When the door closed behind them, Debbie released a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. That was brutal, she said quietly. That was necessary. Jae-hyun loosened his tie slightly. He needed to understand that actions have consequences. That you can't destroy people without eventually facing judgment. Will he accept? He has no choice. Pride won't pay his debts or save his company. He'll accept, and every day for the rest of his career, he'll remember that his downfall came from underestimating you. Jae-hyun's hand found hers. That's real revenge, Debbie. Not destruction, but complete reversal of power. Min-joon accepted the terms an hour before the deadline. The contracts were signed within a week, Park Industries becoming a Savage Group subsidiary with new leadership and Min-joon relegated to a mostly ceremonial board position. The business news covered it as a smart investment in a struggling company. Only a few people knew the real story, that it was revenge dressed as capitalism. How does it feel? Jae-hyun asked that evening, as they stood at the penthouse windows watching Seoul glitter below. Knowing he's been neutralized? Satisfying. Frightening. Strange. Debbie tried to articulate the complex emotions. He can't hurt me anymore. But I also realize how much power you have, how easily you dismantled him. It makes me wonder what you could do to me if you wanted. I would never hurt you. The statement came without hesitation. You're not Min-joon, Debbie. You're not someone who deserves punishment. How do you know? You barely know me. I know enough. He turned her to face him, his hands gentle on her shoulders. I know you're kind to strangers. I know you face your fears instead of running. I know you're stronger than you believe and worth more than anyone ever told you. That's enough. Jae-hyun, whatever she'd meant to say, died when he kissed her. This time felt different from before. Less tentative, more certain, like they'd both stopped pretending this was purely practical. His hands slid into her hair, angling her head for deeper access. Debbie's fingers gripped his shirt, pulling him closer, need overriding caution. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Jae-hyun's eyes held heat and something more complex. Come to bed with me. Not the guest room. My room. Where you belong. This is moving fast. But even as she said it, Debbie knew her resistance was crumbling. We got married. Everything's already moved fast. His thumb traced her jaw. I want you, Debbie. Not as part of a contract or an arrangement. I want you because you're brilliant and beautiful and you make me feel things I wasn't expecting to feel. Tell me you feel it too. I feel it. The admission felt like jumping off a cliff. I'm terrified of feeling it, but I do. Then stop being afraid. Stop waiting for the other shoe to drop. We're married. We're attracted to each other. Let's see where this goes without overthinking it. He kissed her again, briefer but no less intense. Stay with me tonight. No expectations. Just stay. She did. They spent that night in the master bedroom, talking and kissing and exploring this connection that had started as desperation and evolved into something neither could quite define. Jae-hyun was surprisingly gentle, his control never wavering even as passion built between them. He made her feel precious, protected, wanted in ways that had nothing to do with obligation. Morning arrived too quickly, Seoul's light flooding through windows. Debbie woke wrapped in expensive sheets and Jae-hyun's arms, his breathing steady against her neck. For the first time since this whole situation began, she felt something like peace. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand, her mother calling again, probably demanding updates on something. Debbie ignored it, burrowing deeper into warmth and safety. You should answer. Jae-hyun's voice rumbled against her skin, rough with sleep. She'll just keep calling. Let her. I'm exactly where I want to be. He chuckled, the sound vibrating through her. Dangerous words, Mrs. Kang. I might get used to hearing them. Maybe that's the point. Debbie turned in his arms, meeting those dark eyes that saw too much. Maybe I'm tired of running from what I want. And what do you want? You. This. Whatever we're becoming. She touched his face, feeling stubble under her fingers. I know it's fast. I know it's complicated. But I think you're right. We stopped being a contract the moment we signed those papers. Took you long enough to admit it. But his smile held satisfaction, possessive and pleased. Good. Because I don't share well, and I've decided you're mine. Properly mine, not just on paper. They spent the day together, ignoring business and obligations in favor of learning each other. Jae-hyun told her about building Savage Group from nothing, about the fights and sacrifices required to reach the top. Debbie shared her own story, the pressure of expectations, the loneliness of always performing, the relief of finally being seen as herself rather than a status symbol. I want to do something, she said that afternoon, sprawled on the couch with her head in his lap. Something that's mine. Not related to you or my family or anyone's expectations. Like what? His fingers played with her hair absently. I don't know yet, but I want to figure it out. Want to build something that matters because it's mine, not because it's attached to someone else's name. She looked up at him. Is that okay? Me wanting my own thing. It's more than okay. It's essential. Jae-hyun's expression turned serious. I didn't marry you to make you dependent, Debbie. I married you to give you the freedom to become whoever you want to be. Use my resources, my connections, whatever you need. Build something amazing. The conversation continued into evening, plans forming for Debbie's future, maybe fashion, maybe philanthropy, maybe something entirely unexpected. For the first time in years, she felt excited about possibilities rather than trapped by obligations. Her parents called that evening, demanding a family dinner to discuss the situation. Debbie agreed, but this time she approached it with confidence rather than fear. She had Jae-hyun beside her, had proven her worth, had nothing left to prove to people who'd been willing to discard her. The dinner was tense but illuminating. Her parents had clearly researched Jae-hyun thoroughly and recognized their daughter's new position. They were polite, almost deferential, angling for connection to his business empire. No, Jae-hyun said calmly when her father suggested a potential partnership. Debbie's relationship with you is her choice. Mine with you is separate. And right now, I'm not interested in mixing business with family, especially family that gave my wife an ultimatum rather than support. The temperature dropped. Her mother's smile froze. We were trying to help her. You were trying to control her. There's a difference. His tone remained pleasant but firm. If you want a relationship with Debbie going forward, it needs to be genuine. Not based on what she can do for you or how her marriage benefits your social status. She deserves better. They left shortly after, Jae-hyun's ultimatum hanging in the air. In the car, Debbie couldn't stop the smile spreading across her face. You didn't have to do that. Yes, I did. They needed to understand you're not theirs to manipulate anymore. You're your own person. And you're mine, which means I protect you. Even from family. He pulled her close. Get used to it. Weeks passed in a blur of adjusting to married life and planning Debbie's future ventures. The scandal faded as new gossip replaced it, her marriage to Jae-hyun becoming accepted rather than questioned. Min-joon disappeared from high society circles, his fall from grace complete. Everything should have felt perfect. But Debbie found herself waiting for disaster, unable to fully believe in happiness that had come so unexpectedly. Late one night, unable to sleep, she voiced her fears to Jae-hyun. What if this doesn't last? What if you wake up one day and realize you made a mistake marrying me? Not possible. He pulled her against him, his heartbeat steady under her ear. Want to know why? Why? Because you're not someone you get tired of, Debbie. You're someone you discover layers to, someone who gets more interesting the longer you know them. I could spend 50 years married to you and still find new things to love. He tilted her face up, his expression serious. This isn't temporary. This isn't a phase. You're mine, and I take care of what's mine. Even when I'm difficult? Especially then. Difficulty means you're being honest instead of performing. I'll take honest over easy any day. He kissed her forehead. Stop waiting for me to leave. I'm not going anywhere. The words settled something anxious in her chest, letting her finally breathe fully. This was real. This man who'd started as a stranger, as a desperate solution to an impossible problem, had become someone essential. Someone who saw her completely and chose her anyway. I love you. The words escaped before she could stop them, honest and terrifying. Jae-hyun went very still. Then he smiled, slow and devastating. I know. I've been waiting for you to figure it out. You knew. I've known for weeks. You look at me like I'm the answer to questions you didn't know you were asking. Like I'm home. His hand cupped her face. And you're right. We're home to each other. Have been since that alley, maybe. Certainly since we signed those papers. Do you? She couldn't quite ask. Love you? Completely. Obsessively. In ways that probably aren't entirely healthy, but feel absolutely right. He kissed her, deep and claiming. You're mine, Debbie Kang. Now and always. Get used to it. She did. Days turned into months, their contract marriage evolving into something real and solid and undeniable. Debbie launched a fashion line focused on empowering women who'd survived public humiliation, using her own story as foundation. It became unexpectedly successful, featured in magazines and worn by celebrities who appreciated its message. Jae-hyun stood beside her through every launch and interview, proud and supportive, never trying to overshadow her success. They became one of Seoul's power couples, not through scandal, but through genuine partnership and mutual respect. Min-joon faded into obscurity, his name appearing occasionally in business news, but never with the prominence he'd once enjoyed. Debbie rarely thought about him anymore. He'd become irrelevant, a footnote in the story of how she'd found herself. One evening, standing on their penthouse balcony with Seoul spread below like a carpet of stars, Debbie leaned against Jae-hyun and felt completely content. You know what's funny, she said. If Min-joon hadn't humiliated me, if my parents hadn't given me that ultimatum, I never would have met you. Never would have had this life. Funny how the worst moments lead to the best outcomes. His arms tightened around her. Though I would have found you eventually. Some things are inevitable. You believe in fate? I believe in recognizing what matters and refusing to let it go. The moment I saw you in that alley, I knew you mattered. Everything after was just logistics. He turned her to face him, Seoul's lights creating a halo around them. Thank you for being desperate enough to ask a homeless stranger to marry you. Thank you for being crazy enough to say yes. She kissed him, tasting wine and promise. Best decision I ever made. Second best, he corrected. The best was choosing yourself. Choosing to survive instead of surrendering. I just gave you the tools. You did the actual work of becoming who you are now. They stood together as night deepened, two people who'd found each other in the worst circumstances and built something beautiful from desperation and chance. The contract marriage that should have been simple had become the foundation for everything that mattered: love, partnership, home. Debbie had started this journey broken and humiliated, convinced her life was over. She'd ended it powerful and loved, standing beside a man who saw her value when she couldn't see it herself. The revenge she'd sought had transformed into something better, not destroying Min-joon but transcending him completely, building a life so fulfilling that his cruelty became irrelevant. Some stories end with revenge. This one ended with rebirth. And it was only the beginning. If this story reminded you that your worst moment might lead to your best life, drop a like and share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you loved watching Debbie rise above everything thrown at her, subscribe for more stories about strong people who refuse to stay down. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't destruction, it's becoming untouchable. Thanks for sticking with this story till the very end. You're amazing, and I'll see you in the next one.